Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. Each Corrupted Clip episode is less than 30 minutes long, providing you with the perfect bite-sized content to get you through the day.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast. In this bonus Corrupted Clip, we're digging into the similarities between Brian Shaffer and Joey LaBute. Both men went missing from bars in Columbus, Ohio. Brian Shaffer remains missing. Joey LaBute's body was found in 2016, but his murder remains unsolved. We're also discussing the Smiley Face Killer theory. If you haven't already, go listen to our episodes on Brian Shaffer and Joey LaBute.
Wherever you're listening to this, if you leave us a comment, I'll personally respond to each one.
Here's a recap of Brian and Joey's cases.
On April 1st, 2006, at 1:55 a.m., a security camera at the Ugly Tuna Saloon bar would show Brian Shaffer walking back towards the bar's entrance. This is the last time Brian would be seen. His body has never been found, and he has never used his cell phone, bank account, or social security number. Almost exactly 10 years later, on the evening of March 4th, 2016, Joey LaBute would go to the Union Cafe for a family celebration. Surveillance shows Joey leaving the bar at 12:30 a.m. by himself. Joey's body would be found 24 days later in the Scioto River. His murder remains unsolved.
Brian and Joey were both white men at a Columbus, Ohio bar on Friday nights. When Brian disappears, it's the first evening of spring break for Ohio State University. Joey's disappearance occurs when the Arnold Sports Festival is in Columbus.
This festival brings in over 100,000 visitors to the area.
Brian was 27 years old and Joey was 26 years old. Both bars were located on High Street. The Ugly Tuna High Street location closed, but it was located at 1546 North High Street. The Union Cafe is located at 782 North High Street. This is a 7-minute drive or a 25-minute walk from one bar to the other. We know that Joey was gay. Friends also reported they felt Brian was bisexual.
Continuing with the similarities, both Brian and Joey had online posts made after their disappearance. Someone posted on Brian's dad's obituary saying, quote, "To Dad, love Brian from the U.S. Virgin Islands." An online post on a news article for Joey said, quote, "Well, I guess he got his drink of water." Both of these were from fake accounts, anonymous, and both of them were made from a Columbus library branch. The Columbus police have not been able to track either one of these posters down. It's also the same time of year with both men's disappearances. Joey goes missing in the early morning hours of March 5th. Brian goes missing early on April 1st, but there is a 10-year difference. Some of the similarities are obviously just coincidence. How many white men are at a bar in Columbus on any given night, let alone a Friday night?
A lot of frickin' white guys.
A lot, yes. Brian's cell phone pings from a tower 10 to 15 minutes after he's last seen, but Joey's cell phone pings for 2 hours before it's turned off. There's also 14 surveillance cameras inside the Union Cafe alone. The Ugly Tuna had no interior cameras, so here's a big difference between the cases. As we see Joey leaving the restroom, we can see his face, what he's wearing, that he walks out of that bathroom with, a determined look on his face with a timestamp. The only thing we see is when Brian goes up the escalator into the bar, and then at 1:55 a.m., you see Brian where he appears to walk back into the bar, but we don't know that he didn't take one of those alternative exits and never actually went back into the Ugly Tuna.
This is a random question. Aren't there street cameras? Are there not?
In Joey's case, there are. The police have not released what they found on those cameras.
Wouldn't they be able to find him walking wherever he went to, into a car, into another building, into somewhere, and track it down further that way?
I agree. I think it must be something very critical to the investigation for investigators that they're withholding the exterior cameras. There have got to be traffic cameras there, businesses lining High Street that have cameras on the exterior of their buildings. You would think if he walked out of there and met up with somebody, you would see that person on the camera. So for some reason, Columbus PD is keeping that information on Joey to themselves.
Yeah, why? We'll never know.
I hope we know. I hope we find out sooner rather than later. Joey's body was found a little over 3 weeks later, partially submerged in the Scioto River. Brian may be alive today, but obviously it seems unlikely, as there's been no activity on Brian's phone, Social Security, or bank account since 2006. You can't research Joey's murder without finding information comparing him to Brian Shaffer. One of the biggest theories comparing Brian and Joey is the Smiley Face Killer theory. This is also called the Smiley Face Murder theory or the Smiley Face Gang theory.
This theory was started by retired New York City detectives Kevin Gannon, Anthony Duarte, and Dr. Lee Gilbertson. This theory linked more than 300 men who disappeared and later were found in waterways. Since 1997, this has happened throughout the Midwest United States in 11 states and 25 cities. The victims of the Smiley Face Killer all share similarities. They are typically white, college-aged men. These men appear to be popular and intelligent. Their bodies are always found in waterways, but don't always show signs of drowning being the cause of death. Commonly, there is smiley face graffiti either where the victim went into the water or where their body is found.
Most of the victims have GHB, a date rape drug, in their system and show minimal signs of decomposition. Detective Keith Gannon and Anthony Duarte suspect the men are given GHB at the bar. When these men leave the bar, they are kidnapped, murdered, and held before their bodies are left in a waterway. Law enforcement has closed most of these deaths as accidental drownings. Due to the widespread murders throughout the United States, the detectives suspect that this would be a group or a gang of serial killers. They tag a smiley face to let others know this murder was part of the Smiley Face Killers. There are over 300 possible connected disappearances and murders, so it would definitely take us many full-length episodes to take a deep dive into the Smiley Face Killer theory. To get a better picture of the Smiley Face Killer victims, we broke down just a couple of these cases.
21-year-old Chris Jenkins was partying at a bar in Minneapolis on Halloween 2002. Around midnight, Chris was asked to leave the bar and was never seen alive again. His body was pulled from the Mississippi River 4 months later, still wearing his Halloween costume. Chris's costume was still tucked in with slippers on his feet, and his arms crossed over his chest when his body was found. Toxicology did find GHB in Chris's system. Originally, Chris's death was ruled as an accidental drowning, but appears the case remains open and has been revised to a homicide.
Chris's family thinks that he was the victim of a robbery gone wrong, then carried around in a vehicle before being placed in the river.
Dakota James was 23 years old when he disappeared on January 25, 2017, after a night out with friends at a bar. Pittsburgh surveillance shows Dakota walking toward an alley on the way back to his apartment at 11:49 p.m.
In this video, you can see Dakota kind of like looking down at his phone and walking towards this alley, and that's the last time that we see him alive. Now, according to police, Dakota was trying to pee off the side of a bridge, tripped, and drowned in the river. Something to note here is there's 11 smiley faces tagged on this bridge.
And 40 days later, Dakota's body would be found in the Ohio River. Dakota's parents fought the accidental drowning, ruling as Dakota was athletic and the swim team captain. Detective Gannon reviewed the autopsy and found marks on Dakota's neck, possibly from ligatures.
So he was the swim team captain. It just seems so unlikely that he would trip and fall and drown.
Yeah.
Dakota's wallet was also found with his body, but the suspicious thing is that 2 days after he goes missing, an $11.99 payment was made with a PayPal credit or debit card. Now, it's possible that Dakota made that purchase and it just hit his bank account 2 days later. But to us, when we were researching it, it sounds more like someone had his wallet and made an actual purchase after he disappeared.
Dakota's murder remains unsolved. His parents started the Dakota James Foundation in 2018. This foundation works with communities to supply surveillance cameras and floodlights to homeowners. They also advocate for missing people in underprivileged areas. We'll list the link to the Dakota James Foundation on our episode notes.
The last case that we wanted to highlight is possibly the closest relation to Joey LaBute. This is the death of Brian Welsing. Brian was a 21-year-old finance college student. He went to a Y2K party and disappeared on January 1st, 2000. Brian left the bar and planned to walk the short distance back to his home. Unfortunately, Brian never made it home, and his body would be found 77 days later. Somehow, Brian's body had traveled the 30 miles from Chicago, Illinois to Gary, Indiana, over a 2-month period. But it showed very little decomposition. In an interview for the Smiley Face Killer's The Hunt for Justice documentary, forensic pathologist Dr. Wecht said,
"There's no way that this person could have been dead unless you had a body that was frozen for 77 days.
Lake Michigan didn't freeze over during the time that Brian's body would have been floating during that 77-day period. There's also no water in Brian's lungs, supporting the fact that he was dead prior to going in the water. Brian's blood alcohol limit was 0.084, which is just over the legal limit. This wouldn't make him so drunk that he wanders into a lake and drowns instead of walking that short distance home." Dr. Wecht estimates that Brian was dead as late as 36 hours before his body was found. So where was he over that 2-month period? Or maybe he died right away and was kept in a deep freezer? This would have happened 6 years prior to Brian Shaffer going missing in Columbus. And this Brian Welsing is actually in Chicago. So I know it is confusing with two Brians here. There's some debate on the accuracy of the Smiley Face Killer theory. Most investigators and the FBI say more research would be needed to confirm the Smiley Face Killer cases are connected. 4,000 people drown in the United States every year, with 85% of those deaths being men. The theory is also written off because the smiley faces are different. But they would be different if it's a gang in Ohio compared to a gang in Pennsylvania, right?
Exactly.
The motive is also unclear. What do these gangs or serial killers get out of murdering these men? These men at the bar might be looked at as popular or entitled. It would make you assume that the killer or killers are attacking as a hate crime against college-age men.
There is a horror slasher movie from 2020 called The Smiley Face Killers. This movie is loosely based on the actual Smiley Face Killer theory. The movie is about a soccer player that thinks he's being stalked.
When you look it up online, you do see both. So you'll see Smiley Face Killer singular and Smiley Face Killers plural. And one is this fictional movie and one is the actual investigation.
Taking it back to Brian and Joey, you can see how they get grouped with the Smiley Face Killer. Joey and Brian were both white college-aged guys. Both had talked to others at the bar, which could look like popularity. We don't know if Brian was drugged, but Joey does show signs of being drugged while out at the bar.
Because we know the forensics of Joey's murder, we know that he fits right in with some of the Smiley Face Killer cases. It's harder with Brian Shaffer since we don't have a body or even, in fact, know if he's dead. Which brings us around to, do we think Joey and Brian are connected? Do we think that this Smiley Face Killer theory is legitimate? And I'm not sure that I believe Joey LaBute and Brian Shaffer are connected by anything more than just guys at a bar in a major city. There's a 10-year gap in between, which implies if this is a serial killer, that they went somewhere else, or there's another victim that we don't know about in that missing 10-year gap. Columbus has a population over 900,000 people. The odds of 2 men going missing are high. I do believe that Brian is dead and we just haven't found his body yet. I also believe that Joey was murdered. In Joey's case, I think he was a straight-laced guy that was drugged at the bar. Maybe he overdosed and died in a robbery gone wrong. If the Smiley Face Killer's theory is legitimate, I could see Joey being at least a victim due to the similarities with the other Brian Welsing. On the Smiley Face Killer, I don't think it's a gang. I actually think this is more like a traveling serial killer. I know truckers get a bad reputation, but I could see the Smiley Face Killer having a job maybe similar to a trucker. It's easier for me to wrap my head around if it's 1 or 2 people, not a gang in Chicago and a gang in New York and a gang in Pennsylvania and a gang in Ohio. That's just too much to me, as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 people that are traveling that corridor and murdering college-aged men.
And it could be just a coincidence, too, with the smiley faces. Like, yes, maybe it is a gang, but maybe the gang is not doing the killing. These bodies happen to be around the Smiley Faces. I do believe that Brian and Joey have similarities. Do I think that they were killed by the same person? Not necessarily. I think they do have differences. Like you mentioned, with the population of Columbus, there are so many different variations that it could have happened. It could have been kidnapping. It could have been a predator. It could have been anything. And it's hard to pinpoint because there are so many different variations of what could have happened. And I really do hope that this podcast brings some light to their cases and hopefully brings them justice. If you go out to the bar, or honestly anywhere, always stick with a group of friends. Never leave alone. If you go out together, stay together, and then leave together. Never accept an open drink from someone you don't know, and never leave your drinks unattended. There's a product called a nightcap, which is like a reusable scrunchie cover for your drinks. When it's not over your drink, it can be worn on your wrist like a scrunchie hair tie. They sell it on Amazon for less than $10. Go and get it, people.
There are also drink test strips that you can buy, dip into your drink, and confirm if it's free of 10 or more different drugs. Both options are inexpensive and could save your life. Watch out for each other. If you see something, report it to the bar or restaurant staff discreetly. If you see something, say something. Check the bar online reviews before you go. I can't tell you how many Reddit posts alone I saw while researching Joey's case that talked about being drugged at a bar either in 2016 or very recently. People are posting and reporting it online. Take a couple of minutes and do some research.
It is absolutely scary out there, especially when you're in a major city like Columbus. Anywhere, really, like what we said. A lot of population, things can fall through the cracks for predators to just snatch you.
You're not safe anywhere. If you are at a concert, you are at a music festival, you are at a bar in a small town or a bar in a large town. Buy that nightcap. Cover your drinks up. These drugs are odorless and tasteless, and it takes 20 minutes for someone to drug you and kidnap you. Like, it is fast, guys.
Or just stay inside, be an introvert, buy yourself some alcohol if you want alcohol, and, watch some Netflix or play some video games, whatever you guys like to do, or, listen to podcasts, corrupt podcasts, and everything will be all right. You won't have to worry about anything.
Just stay home, live that legging life, go nowhere. We're instructing you to be hermits now.
This is the life we're explaining of Paige and Angela, just so you guys know. We're hermit crabs.
It's very true. We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye.
Bye.